maps that we play on. We have the 6 maps ready for you that we will not be visiting first, and with the first ban and first pick as well, and we'll see where they aren't going with Skyscraper Cafe and Bank being ENCE's bans, then with Vitality, Consulate, Oregon, and Clubhouse. That will leave us with Border, Chalet, and Coastline. And interestingly enough, Chalet is a map that we know ENCE likes very much. So at first glance, if we take a look just at the bans, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that ENCE picked Border instead of Chalet, which is really interesting. Chalet going to be our decider, it seems. Coastline going to be our second map, Border our first, of course. But yeah, my thoughts are that this was honestly going to favor ENCE in a little bit, right? Because you have Chalet, a map that, as you say, they're very familiar with, but they're familiar with it in a context of which is kind of old. The way that they play that map is very old school, and we've seen them go to Chalet in the last couple times we've seen them go to the Chalet. They play the map in an old mentality, but it works for them because they're so proficient at it, and that proficiency could lend them an edge should we get to the decider. But the problem is, I think, Coastline. Coastline managing to make its way through the ban phase. Vitality clearly want that very much. You can see that, of course, that's their pick. So they have something there to show us. Obviously, they have some pocket strats, and I think that's going to give them an edge in the second map against ENCE, and I'm expecting, because of that, a third map overall.
You know, it's funny because these are two of the most consistent teams that we've seen. You know, I think you could make an argument that Supremacy and Millennium are usually the two teams that have jostled for best overall French team in all of Europe. I think, you know, ENCE, you can always argue, is one of the most consistent teams in the whole world. It's crazy to me that these teams are both fighting in potential spot for relegations, given how this feels like a heavyweight bout between two teams, and they both have deep map pools. They both have an understanding of most of the maps, and I do agree with you. I think the meta is going to turn a lot of that knowledge they have on its head. We polled you to see what you thought of our matchup today, and the community voted on whether they think ENCE or Vitality will prevail, and as you can see, it's pretty darn close. ENCE with 58% to Vitality's 42%. Both huge fan bases.
Yes.
So not a surprise there to see that it's that even, but you think they went with ENCE just simply based on consistency and previous results?
Well, I mean, ENCE, of course, as you say, previous results, they're the name, right? They are one of the European teams that stands out the most in the community. Vitality, on the other hand, they're going to get the entire French vote. And you've got a lot of European fans as well as American fans, I'm guessing, probably going to be voting for the ENCE side of things. But overall, in terms of performance, I mean, you've got a bit of a mixed bag, right? Vitality, something to keep in mind is I'm pretty sure some people haven't heard, and so we'll remind you that Vitality is, of course, the previously known as Supremacy roster. So that's a team that in most recent history has been performing pretty well. Despite them being in the loser bracket, they have been playing very well. And I think that there's a lot of expectation on them because of that. But yeah, no, I think the poll reflects how close this match actually will be, and I believe that we will get to the third map.
Both of these teams competed at the Invitational. Both of them finished in the top 8. Somewhere in there, of course, neither of them made it out of the quarterfinals. Of course, ENCE fell to Penta, and at the time, Supremacy fell to Rogue. And so they fit somewhere in that 5th to 8th spot. The big thing for Vitality was when they were known as Supremacy, they actually won their spot into the Invitational, which is a pretty tall order to do. They made it through the entire bracket. Of course, the actual bracket that they came out of, they defeated 1UP in order to make it to the Invitational. Well, they may or you may or may not say that they had a tough road against Digital Chaos. You know.
Well, Digital Chaos, of course, we just saw got
crushed,
10-1. So it was it was an inch away from a 10-0. So yeah, Digital Chaos had a really bad second match. But yes, I would say that they are a formidable team, and Vitality, yeah, they would have struggled against that team. I understand why. It makes sense. However, I think it also reflects more just how strong 1UP is. If we're going to stretch away from this match for just a second, right. 1UP looks absolutely disturbingly powerful.
Very good.
Yes, they are extremely on point. Their coordination is impeccable. Even from just, glancing at the matches, you can see how well coordinated they are. So that's all aside, though. We do have a totally different match right now. But yes, Vitality in their first bracket, I could see why they would struggle against Digital Chaos.
So a big thing for me, and for those at home that don't tune into potentially, what goes on outside of Pro League. There was Gamers Assembly, that huge French style convention. It's kind of similar to DreamHack in a sense. All the French teams that were, I guess, competing in Pro League and Challenger League, etc., or most of them rather, competed. And it was Vitality who actually walked away with the victory. They didn't lose a single match. They competed against Millennium in the finals, and Vitality coming off of a strong performance this weekend. Now, with that said, we're going to take a look at our top 5 video for you, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes with the matchup.
And Benji trying to anchor hard with 5 seconds left. All he needs to do really is stay alive and deny the plan, and he does just that. What a clutch from Benji, a double kill on the 9-line and Talon.
Gamer, of course, said in the interview he has the perfect operator that he would like to have for this sort of defense. However, with no Yokai, has to rely on the Mira, and BC spots him, lands the headshot on Trip, and gets the information in the second, and BC clutches it! 2 headshots to clean up. And there is a minute left on the clock, but Renshiro gets one. He'll try to get the second here. There we go. Livin will get one. C4 will get thrown, and boom, no, he cannot. Livin will get the final frag on Goga.
They're going to have to show us something different here in this round, and at least Mocket is mixing things up. They're going for a totally different attack, clearing in through the kitchen to start us off.
The Vigil and the Ash will duel, and Panics wins that one. The Bandit will expose himself, and 2 very early kills for Mocket as Opland finds himself down, and Panics, what a shot through the wall into Pantry.
There's little time remaining as Dave gets the kill on Young. Finally cleans him up, but MVK gets the kill.
They've got to plant A. He's going to go for it. He's got cover from Dave, who might still have a lion left.
He's got the mirror window to play around with here as you see the quick peek in from NVK. Sits up behind the bar, trying to find the angle, but the Blackbeard will peek.
He has the advantage, but he has a shield left to be able
Oh no, that's what they want. They want to play up top here. As he lands the headshot, Dave will go down, and NVK turns it to a 1v1. Well, the Blackbeard has the information, but NVK might be able to rush on into this. Does he hear the Blackbeard maneuvering? Yes, he does. Goes in for the 1v1, and NVK clutches it again. Half HP on the Vigil, 5-1 victory, and Evil Geniuses. What a fantastic play on the defense here.
And welcome back. So we're just letting the rest of the players filter in, and just in case you didn't tune into any of the broadcasts previously in regards to what relegations are, I think it's important to always let people know, because there's a lot of questions about the way, number one, how do you get into Pro League? Do Go4s get you into Pro League? Do amateur leagues? No, the only way to get into Pro League, other than getting picked up by a team.
Do people actually ask that?
People actually ask that. And that's okay.
That's okay. You gotta learn somehow.
It can be a system that is a little daunting to newer players. So
Yeah.
basically what happens is at the end of every single season, the 2 lowest performing Pro League teams fight for their spots to stay in Pro League against the 2 highest performing, that'll be the 1st and 2nd seed teams in Challenger League. That's it. So essentially what would happen is we know that Opland, the French team, is going to be one of the 2 teams in Europe competing for their spot against whichever 2 teams emerge from the European Challenger League as seeds 1 and 2. Opland will be joined by either their French friends and their amis in Vitality, or ENCE, the former seasonal champions. And I think that's also important to note is that last season in Sao Paulo, it was ENCE who walked away with the championship. So they could potentially go from season champions to relegations.
So you're talking about potentially not playing in the next season of Pro League, which is touted as being one of the most important seasons in Pro League ever, because it's, of course, the 6-month-long season. But I think the important thing also is to reference the fact that you were talking about earlier. ENCE versus Vitality, this is a Titan match, and we're in the loser's bracket right now. We're in the bottom of the barrel for this group, which is just a little bit mind-blowing, honestly. And again, no matter who gets pushed back into relegations, it's going to be a surprise. I mean, you know, you talk about ENCE, the storied history, the team that has been around for so long and has such a huge reputation of going to all of the lands. And and they could very well just lose right here. And you talk about Vitality, a team that, a long time ago jumped over from a different platform, but that's all in the past. Nobody even thinks about that anymore because they're so good in the platform they play on now, and they could go to relegations. Either way, it would be a shock. But let's get into the first map of this best of 3. Of course, going to be Border as we load in.
One thing that is very interesting is that in North America, CLG was at the Invitational, and they are in relegations.
And I don't believe they've ever been.
In Latin America, Gaming was at the Invitational, and they are now in relegations. And we're gonna step out of the game for just a second, and we're gonna come back to us. But no matter who loses this matchup between either ENCE or Vitality, there will be yet another team that was at the Invitational now competing in relegation. So every single region will have had one of those top 16 teams in Montreal fighting for their lives in Pro League.
It was a lot of teams at the Invitational, to be fair, but yeah, no matter what, it's just kind of an oddity. You look farther back in Rainbow Six history, specifically esports, and there was a time where we had maybe 1 or 2 teams in each region where you're like, yeah, these are going to be the ones that go to LAN, 100%, no question. And then when you get to those eventual seasonal finals, you would say, okay, this is the team that probably has the best chance of winning, and this is the team that can contend that. And then there was maybe one more team that was going to fight for that title. And now we have a situation where every single team, we've been saying how the skill level, the baseline skill level in the ENCE eSports has just been ramping up and up and up for a long time, but it keeps going that way. And we're seeing such an interesting development in things like this match, for example, because of stuff like that. I can't imagine Vitality ENCE as a match and one of them just not going to be playing in the rest of the season. It is odd to think about.
Yeah, it's the only team I think in all of Pro League that you can say to yourself, there's probably a better chance that they go to LAN than they don't as Penta. And I think that's just based on all, you could probably have said that about ENCE because so far they have a 100% success rate at going to all of the offline events that we've had and all of our seasonal events. But
I would have said that about, FaZe from Latin America too, or Evil Geniuses, right? But then we saw Liquid beat FaZe, and now that's the whole thing, right? Is you have the teams that you would say, yes, they're that team that there's much likelier to go to LAN. And I'd say that, yeah, Penta probably still holds that title, but they might be the last team that can just say, oh yeah, they're probably going to go to LAN. And how long can that really last? How long will that last is a question you have to ask yourself. Because, things change, time flies, and who knows? Who really knows with Siege?
OneUp has been nipping at the heels of Europe for quite a while, and if we saw during the group stages, they drew Group A, which at the Invitational was, of course, Penta, Evil Geniuses, the old Vitality, now known as Mocket, and OneUp. And of course, when you look at that, you've got probably one of the best and most consistent North American teams, and then one of the best and most consistent European teams. Only 2 teams are going to make it out of that bracket. Very difficult, though OneUp came painstakingly close. They almost knocked out Evil Geniuses twice. So, now here they are. They just won their matchup. Very likely that they could go to LAN. And now the old guard in EU has changed. You don't have the same Penta, ENCE, pillars that we used to have. We'll load into Border once again.
Just to build on what you were talking about too, we were talking about meta earlier, and OneUp I would say OneUp is probably one of the best teams in the world for having adapted to the new meta. In that they have so adeptly embraced this new meta and are really good at executing that. And some people would say that, oh, that's that's a bad thing, or that detracts from their skill or their position. But no, that means that they're capable of being forward thinking, and it's an impressive trait in a team as kind of, I'd say, newly forged as OneUp.
Yeah, they were running, similar to the way that Black Dragons plays it out, both of these teams were running this meta before it actually was adopted, rather, by every single team. And just simply based upon that, you've got, if you're looking at OneUp, you've got Hungry, who probably one of the best, if not the best,
I
Ying
think
players in the world.
if you talk to most European players, they would say he was probably the best in the world.
And I think that's a reputation well deserved. And I mean, Ying doesn't see a whole host of play at the moment. As I say that, Uno, of course, has selected a Ying. But prior to Lion's emergence, Glaz and Ying were dominating a lot of games, not just at the Invitational, but also in scrims, in Pro League matches, other regional tournaments. And it's no surprise to see their pick rate come back up, especially as we know that there is a Lion nerf looming in the not-so-distant future. It's currently being tested on the TS right now, and I think some teams are, depending on when that Lion nerf does go live, preparing for the fact that we need to have strats in place for when Lion inevitably is not picked at, 97, 98% that he is now.
This is one of the shortest seasons you're going to ever see in Siege. I think it's about a 2.5 month long season, about give or take a little. But it's one of the shortest. And it's got a very particular pocket meta that you will never see again, in all likelihood, outside of this season because of that Lion change. Zafir going to see the first damage in this match as he gets lit up to about 20 points of HP. And he's going to fall back to the the CCTV doorway. Trying to rotate. I have to trip whenever possible.
Panari might have been
Speaking
engaged at some point, but he'll get reset no matter what, so he'll be able to get away with his life intact. And the first EE1D will now go off as the Lion has been picked back up. And it does appear that there's going to be a push in through Fountain and through Office. That is going to be the ultimate prize to get inside of B and get a plant down. Now, Vitality has arranged in a very interesting manner. They've put a lot of reinforcements up onto the wall inside of security and CCTV, and that hold is not going to do you all that well. At the moment, we're going to see Uno run in, but ill-advised as 2 for Vitality as they jump up to a 5v3. There's a minute left to play, and the Lion and Glaz no longer available for ENCE at the moment.
You can see that Boonsey conscious of the player in CCTV, but not able to land the shots. Zafir getting himself reset, so he's going to have 50 HP to work with. Wilkie on the balcony is going to fall to Brid, who just quick peeks, looks for the fight, and he could probably do it again very easily. He's in fact almost solo holding the site as the C4 will find Panari, but Boonsey refrags. He's got to find 4 more, though, an ace to win the round. Almost gets the Legion, but it's just an even exchange of HP. Continuing to light up players. Nice headshot onto Bibu. One more player in the site. Zafir running out over by Offices. He's got to be conscious of his flank.
15 seconds left.
He's only got 13 seconds, and he's going to start pressuring into B. Playing on the bomb, though. It's not going to be Raphael. He peeks from Fountain. And I believe that is going to be it for ENCE. The first round going to Vitality.
And no chance there with the way that Vitality was playing for the trade. Both the Bandit and the Jaeger lined up in a position where even if Boonsey gets one, maybe a bit unlikely as the Bandit was playing tight behind that bomb. That was just Vitality reading that there was a change coming, peeling off of security and CCTV, stacking up bodies inside of that armory wall, and then making sure that you didn't lose control of Office early. Of course, the fact that the Ying died so quickly with Uno going in to Office meant that those Candelas, the smokes which had already come out, are not going to be available for you. So Vitality just simply waited them out and waited for the push, and the moment the push came, ENCE did not read their opponents correctly, and capitalization from the French.
Now, Uno did manage to get off 2 Candelas, but he should have been able to retain at least one of them for during the plant and the post-plant. I think the most important thing was that his Candela that went into sight went way far. It went towards the doorway between the sites instead of the B-site player who was over by the drop-down in Archive. So that player was not blind, and thus a very easy kill for, I believe it was Zafir.
So with the Candelas, and especially Office in general, any type of flashbang in this game is susceptible to the environment around it. You know, there's when you throw Ying's Candelas in and all of those flashbangs shoot out of the main Candela to blind people, the less clutter in the site means the more likelihood that you've blinded the people in it. It's one of the issues with Office is just there's so much in there, so much debris that can potentially get in the way. It did not look like the Bandit was blind at all, and it was Uno essentially running into his death at that point. The LMG that Ying uses has a pretty low fire rate and especially low damage per second, and that's not going to do much against an MP7. probably one of the most reliable defensive weapons.
Vertical recoil, no horizontal recoil, tons of DPS, and very high rate of fire. So yeah, Bandit obviously one of the more picked operators for a good reason, but also, you know, the utility's nice. Anyway, top east stairs control from Vitality, and that's pretty typical when attacking the top floor. You just get this top east stairs because it's so easy for the attackers to pinch. There's very little chance of a defensive hold on that spot. And since you can have it, you may as well take it. Now, Kanto's going to be trying to contest it from the mirror window in CCTV. It's a very difficult angle to win a gunfight on with a defensive operator, especially one that doesn't have an ACOG, but it's doable.
Now, a lot of people wonder why that mirror is so important, and if you're somewhat new to the scene or new to Border, you saw it there firsthand, and that is, look at these angles that Kanto can view from one mirror. Can see all the way through Fountain into Office itself. Just behind Office, where the window that Raphael is playing, they can see all the way into Break Room and the main doors as well. Kanto has basically a third, if not a little bit more than that, of that second floor covered just because of that one mirror.
You can also technically get the south doorway into CCTV should the wall be opened up, but it doesn't seem like ENCE has gone that extra mile to get those walls open. Kanto gonna win that fight that we talked about earlier. Bibu goes down, the Ash at the top of east stairs. Very difficult angle to win, but if there's anyone you can rely on doing it, it's Kanto.
They managed to drone him out. It will likely once again be another Office push. Raphael, as the Thermite is positioned just by the Office wall, waiting for a signal to work away at it. However, it is bandited, so they will need to get rid of those bandit charges, or else the electricity will simply do them a lot of trouble. And now Raphael has peeled off. Only 30 seconds left as Brid downstairs. That's your Hibana who can apply some vertical pressure. Usually you would have potentially an Ash, but that was Bibu who had died early on, so you will not have those breaching charges. They will use some great drone coordination, and they have downed Uno, and they've taken the pulse out of the equation. That's 10 seconds, both teams at 4. Zephyr will throw out a couple smokes, or Zephyr rather, as Raphael walks into sight, and he'll be dispatched via C4, and ENCE a nice strong hold at the moment, and E1D will go down, but they are just out of time as Zephyr in the final dying seconds gets the plant before ENCE closes that round out, and we're all tied up. No chance whatsoever, just once again, and this might be a story for us, Vitality taking the final 30 seconds as the main course of action might end up starting to cost them rounds.
So, for all of you newer viewers out there who haven't seen Vitality play in the past and not familiar with their play style, they are notorious for being extremely slow on attack. Every single round, they usually come down to the last 30 seconds before they start pushing the site. And almost, well, every team knows that. All of their opponents are aware of this. Now, sometimes what will happen is Vitality, of course, they're very self-aware as well. They will choose to speed up their attack rounds and do something crazy fast to catch the other team off guard, and that can render them some really easy wins. But oftentimes, it just comes down to their opponents on defense waiting them out, and it can see such easy success in many occasions. So, of course, Vitality suffering from that in the previous round, but now they're going back to defense, and this is where that's not exactly relevant how quickly Vitality attacks. So they're going to be holding the ventilation workshop, and they'll be doing it from above with a very heavy investment upstairs, 2 mirror windows, and plenty of castle barricades.
You know, I believe it was Benjamin Franklin who wrote in the 1700s that there are 3 things in life he is assured of: death, taxes, and Vitality attacking in the final 30 seconds of a round. So
He did say that.
I think you can go back and actually see that. It's scholarly writing.
Go ahead and bring out your old high school history textbook.
You may Google it.
It's in there.
You may, if you so choose. So workshop tellers downstairs, a castle being brought. Nothing too out of the ordinary right now that I see for the defense.
Nor the attack.
And it'll be very incumbent upon ENCE to be able to get inside of the building and get their push off, knowing that the defense isn't prepared for them. Rightly so, Vitality was awaiting ENCE in round number 1, and they countered that push very effectively. And it was a swift push by ENCE, which is the difference between that round and the round we just saw, which is that Vitality took their time. We'll see if Vitality is going to be in position to greet ENCE when they eventually do decide to attack the site.
Uno trying to bait out a reaction there by vaulting over and pushing Fountain. He's just going to wait it out, though, waiting for his teammates to drone archives before he makes the push. He's also cautious of the Mira window. Just going to lend him pause, and he will use his Candelas and smokes to try and disable it. There's no one from Vitality playing the Mira window right now, but of course, ENCE doesn't know that. EE1D pops off, and the Candelas to blind the Valkyrie. She will not be able to react to this Pinari vault, but she will get Wilkie. Spark, some excellent play. That's unexpected. He should have been full blind. Pinari, though, there to refrag. The Habana is lost, so the drop downs, if they're not already opened, no, they are. So it doesn't actually matter that much. But still, Vitality holds on to this top floor.
Now, it could have just simply been a circumstance where Spark blindly fired, assuming that he was going to get pushed. There was a coordinated pinch from both Uno and Pinari as he leapt in the window to take care of Spark, who did some erratic movement, which caused Pinari to make some adjustments on his shots. They'll have to figure out what to do with the bathroom here now, and a lot of this push usually involves getting a thermite inside a bathroom and blowing up the wall into workshop. Of course, if you take a look, there's no thermite available for them. And as you mentioned, the Heart Destructor is gone. That'll be joined by Boonsy now as he is off the board as well, and Brid, no real chance. Uno storms in. That was a joint effort of the EE1D and a Candela to pinch the Mira, leaving us at 3v3, and now Kanto taking Zephyr means that the Jaeger is done. It's only Raphael and Bibu left. We'll see if the attackers can win their very first round. Another EE1D will go off as Bibu downed, and it's all Raphael. He's the last member of Vitality against ENCE, as they have complete site control, but Raphael comes in through the main door, and Pinari is there right as the EE1D expires. Vitality loses the round. ENCE takes the attacking round, and now a 2-1 lead.
So, the very first attacking win, as you talked about earlier, but also the very first defense of Ventilation, and that could just be telling of the trend that we might see emerge here on this map. But either way, good attack from ENCE. Vitality holding very hard onto that top floor, not allowing it to slip out of their grasp throughout the entire round, always having a presence upstairs or putting one up there after losing it initially. So, kind of an interesting focus for the defense of Vitality, and questionable. It seemed to not work out very well for them. Hopefully they'll be able to adapt off of that next time they go to a Ventilation hold. Now, ENCE are going to be the next ones to defend, of course, and they will go to the same bomb site since they managed to win their armory, same as Vitality. Now, if you're not familiar with Border, these are the two most common bomb sites seen.
You can also see a potential customs defense downstairs. That was one that was popularized by their fellow Europeans in Penta. You can see it's being highlighted. It's just on the right-hand side of your screen at the moment.
Thanks, Martu.
And that, of course, is a site that is... The hold for it mirrors in some ways the way that you would hold Armory upstairs. You're going to stack some bodies up in CCTV and in security, and if you lose that, your defensive hold at that point is pretty much gone. So that is going to be the main prize, the crown jewel for the attackers to take over. A lot of teams don't opt for it. I would say that because without having a very strong strat, that Ventilation and Workshop is probably easier to hold. You need something similar to the way that you see teams will hold potentially Kitchen Barbecue on Skyscraper. You need to have it heavily stratted out and have everything in line with a proper strat.
It's a difficult hold, that's for sure, and it takes a lot of coordination. Now, the strategy, just to build on a little bit more, the strategy was, yes, I believe it made by Penta, but it actually became viable, and Penta were the ones to manage to put the pieces together on this because of that mirror window that we were highlighting earlier, the one that has a good amount of coverage on the top floor. Vitality gonna get a Claymore kill as Boonsy vaults out the B window. Not sure what happened there, but that's probably one of the best possible kills you could get onto the defense, especially only a minute into the round. Boonsy, of course, the smoke, not having used any of his gas grenades, is going to be, well, useless in this round. That's unfortunate.
Right, you just lost the smoke, probably the most valuable operator on defense for ENCE, and you did so without taking an engagement as well. Now they'll lose another as Wilkie is gone, your castle down. Hopefully all three of those barricades should be out at this point as we are halfway through round number 4, but that will give Vitality a lead of 2 at the moment, or an advantage of 2 rather. And the first logic bomb does go out for the team as they begin to push.
Yeah, and EE1D will start popping off. So Vitality have a lot of maneuvering here that they can put onto, they can basically flex on ENCE right now. ENCE is going to be the ones that they need to start playing extremely safe and holding singular angles and trying to just be as passive as possible. Now you saw there, the castle Wilkie, I believe, died over by Passport, which is kind of an odd position to be in. Boonsey vaulting out the B window, okay, a little bit of a mistake, but the castle playing Passport is also kind of questionable. Why do we need to hold Passport, right? Whatever the case, the thermite has been placed in the main hallway wall, facing into Workshop, and ENCE are very stacked, similar to Vitality, on the top floor. So 2 players from ENCE right now not able to influence this push.
If they can't take care of Kanto, though, he is going to loom from above and be in a position to stop the plan. And E1D will come down, and he will see Bibu for just a second, and he'll lose that engagement, and so will the rest of ENCE. All of them dying in the span of moments, and a very swift execution from Vitality will tie things up yet again. That EE1D was a significant difference maker, and that's what you said. You have to hold those angles and try not to get too aggressive. Kanto got aggressive, I think, reading the clock and realizing that that was the time to do it, but it was countered by the EE1D, and when the rest of Vitality pushed, it didn't matter how much was left. They swept through the site, and that was it.
You know, getting into one of those strafe wars with another 3-speed, like the one we just saw between Bibu and Kanto, is one of the most uncomfortable engagements in the game. When you're both trying to peek into each other or peek away from each other, or, you know, it's uncomfortable. And you saw it really tripped up Kanto, who's notorious, or kind of, well, so rather famous for having spectacular aim. Now, 2-2, we've seen complete reflection, and here's the mix-up, ladies and gentlemen. Vitality bringing it to Bathroom Tellers. So, for the uninformed, let's talk a little bit about Bathroom Tellers. Now, this is probably one of the most odd sites that we do see played from time to time. However, it is widely regarded as the worst bomb site on this map.
Yes.
It's weird. And we sometimes see teams defend it successfully just out of sheer shock, because oftentimes it will catch their opponents off guard. So Vitality, of course, are going to be banking a lot on ENCE's lack of knowledge, I guess, for this site. However, I don't think it's going to trip up ENCE too much.
The big thing for this site is how easily defendable A is, but how tough it is to defend B. And if we look at Customs as a site, similar to the way we see Bathrooms Tellers, you have to defend from above. So, if you can flush somebody out over top of the hatch in B, you have essentially taken almost full control of B itself. Because then you can take East Stairs, get to the bottom of East Stairs, watch those Tellers windows, you have the hatch from above. Your job is pretty easy at that point. You can smoke it off and plan. And with both of these teams, they've been bringing an awful lot of smoke utility to get those plants down when need be.
Yeah, and they are going to have some difficulty. I mean, we've got a good amount of C4 on Vitality right now, potentially 3, very likely 2 at the least. And that can be a good counter to those smoke plants. But there's no echo and there's no smoke. So, well, smoke as in the operator, not the grenades. So Vitality at a somewhat of interesting disadvantage that they've placed themselves in by going to this site and not bringing any anti-plant. Not really. I mean, unless you count the hard C4, but that's usually considered one of the least reliable anti-plants, depending on the situation.
Panari knows that he has Spark trapped and sees the gun barrel of the Valkyrie. And will go for a flash, but that will get eaten by an ADS. Will Spark get aggressive here and take the fight on the window? And E1D will freeze Spark in place, and it's all up to the Lion to push in. But there are a lot of ADSs there. We'll catch the final flash, and Spark somehow comes away with the kill on the Panari as Zafir eliminating Kanto, and ENCE now already down by 2 as they try to storm the gates and get rebuffed by the defenders. Vitality in good position now to hold on to this round. And Uno will miss his shots after one Candela goes off inside of Office. But Bibu eliminating Wilkie, and this round is almost over. The French right now holding strong, as that was 3 members of ENCE who tried to entry, and all of them pushed back. Now Spark is waiting, and Zafir takes out Boonsey. And a second for Spark as Uno goes off, and what a hold from Vitality. ENCE a little too aggressive, a little too early, and it does not do them well.
Can we talk about what just happened? We just saw a successful defense of the Bathroom Tellers on border. That's such an oddity. That usually does not happen. And you really got to give props to Vitality, breaking the mold, doing something new, and it working out. But ENCE, on the other hand, I mean, they had a clear idea of what they needed to do. They were trying to take control over Archives so that they could extend that control to Offices. I mean, once you have Archives, Offices is pretty easy. But obviously, Vitality were really well set up to counter that exact push. I mean, ENCE didn't even make it past Archives. And past Archives, there was a mirror window in Fountain that was looking into Archives. So if ENCE had gotten that initial control, they wouldn't have been able to push into Offices, which is, of course, the end goal. I mean, apart from the site itself. Effectively, on that site, holding Offices is the core anchor spot for the defense. But still, I mean, a little bit of a trip up there from ENCE. Well done to Vitality.
That was a great hold, and ENCE just threw bodies at the problem. I don't know how much droning we had seen them do. It did not look like they were droning as heavily. And going up, and this is the big disparity we're going to see, going up against Vitality, which might be one of the most drone-heavy teams in every single region.
Yeah.
Their style of play is often characterized as they will drone everything twice and then make their move. You know that whole saying, you know, measure twice, cut once? That's essentially what they do, but with drones and then their actual execution. The only question is their attacking strategy ever, you know, good enough to be able to make it work after all of that information is provided? For ENCE, it looks like a lot of their entry is just simply revolving around fragging potential, and they are nowhere near as coordinated as we are seeing the French team here in their information and the way that they're spreading it out amongst the team.
Yeah, and if I can say, as someone who's been, you know, has seen ENCE's journey since the beginning, they are not amazingly well known for just their raw fragging potential. What makes ENCE ENCE is how well they conduct their strategies, and it doesn't seem like they're really doing that right now. And another thing that I really want to touch on, in that last round especially, ENCE didn't commit to anything that they were trying to do immediately when they tried to when they were thinking about doing it. So, for example, the Lion on the north balcony, thinking about flashing the Valkyrie, flashed once, saw the ADS, and instead of going for another flash and another flash to actually blind the Valkyrie and go in for the kill, lingered and was just pondering existence for a good 20 seconds before trying to commit to the push. And all that time, you're giving your Valkyrie, your opponent, the ability to adjust and confront you face to face in the most efficient manner possible. So they're giving Vitality ground, and Vitality are taking it graciously.
Vitality opening up a very small wall inside of Fountain, which is where Wilkie is playing prone. Another thing from ENCE is how many role changes they've made. Wilkie usually playing the glass, they've had Kanto on that. ENCE usually playing the smoke, he's now roaming on the Jaeger, and they've got Wilkie playing that smoke role. First kill is going to go to Raphael, the Thermite storms in, and the smoke is gone. So ENCE is without their IGL and their smoke. There's a minute left. So a bit of a quicker pace for Vitality at the moment, and they're going to assault Archives, which of course is the site that we typically see teams stack up on. And the Thermite's exothermic charge will blow the wall, and Boonsy is going to have to head for the hills, but he won't get away with his life intact as Bibu is there to make sure that he pays. And Vitality once again with an advantage of 2. The Bandit goes through it. Kanto, a shot out of nowhere! How do you connect with that? And Spark, who looked to be able to clean up as a great reflexive shot from the Bandit, and that still will have ENCE at a deficit, but at very minimum, you've taken out that Blackbeard who could do so much work. But now Vitality is going to abuse their number advantage, and Bibu, who started off slow, has gotten one down and will go for the 3-piece to end things off. Brid will help him out, and Vitality moves to match point as they take that round just as the diffuser goes down, and you can see Spark will pay some compliments to Kanto for that shot.
You know, I talked about how ENCE is not really well known for their fragging power, but there are particular members on the ENCE roster who are. Of course, Kanto probably the most prominent in that particular department. He is an exceptionally skilled individual player, and his aim is really on point, which has just been highlighted well for us just now. I mean, that was a Blackbeard too. There's a shield in front of that guy's face, but he made the adjustment, which cost him oh so much in that fight. And he started to move to the left, which allowed Kanto enough visibility of the head to hit that shot. It's a very narrow one, though.
So we will now have seen every single site played on this map, all 4 getting to be on display as we head to customs for what could be our final round. Round number 7, match point in favor of Vitality. This is ENCE's map. They have won their rounds that they won in a good showing. However, ENCE has looked a lot shakier, in my opinion, on attack than they have on defense, and their hopes on this map now rest on attack.
They also just lost, I believe, the very first defense on Armory. As in, that was the first time Armory has not been successfully defended.
Yes.
So, you know, shaky on attack, yes. Shaky on defense, also seemingly so. I mean, it's been a struggle for ENCE, that's for sure. And now that we're going to the second offsite, this is Vitality who've been bringing us to these different sites every time. We talked about whose map it is. This is ENCE's map, but clearly Vitality are well versed in it. They have a lot of things up their sleeves, and it's almost as if they expected ENCE to bring them here. Coastline, as the next map in this series, I believe, is almost certainly going to favor Vitality for the same exact reason.
And I think we cannot understate how important it was that the previous weekend Vitality spent literally playing against the best French teams and French players in the world. They have had all of this pro league level experience competing against teams such as Mocket, Millennium, Oplon, etc. And now here they are, and they could be coming in quite high. Yeah, I mean, it was the weekend, it was 4 days ago, so it is long enough, but you get that experience, it's vital, it's probably superior to scrimming, and it's a good warm-up for what you're going to be seeing against ENCE today. And I mean, ENCE is struggling at the moment, and this has been the tale so far. They struggled in their first matchup against 1UP, and now they struggle too against Vitality. Storming in, though, is ENCE. They've gotten into sight, and a plant going off from Wilkie 90 seconds into the round as he is able to type away, and a smoke goes down, and they won't be able to be successful at all. Spark is the first casualty to Panari, but Zafir will trade that one off as Wilkie, who had just gotten the plant down, is now punished. Vitality will move as a second EE1D pops, and they're going to look to try to rebuff these attackers. Panari taking out Zafir, and Brid will be spotted as he hops outside, and Vitality no longer in the driver's seat. ENCE looks to be able to potentially push this. Close to overtime as now Boonsy gets in, and Uno as no Kanto, a team kill on Boonsy, leaving Bibu as the last alive, who will hopelessly sprint into the sight of a glass, and ENCE will still stay alive. They'll take this on attack, and interestingly enough, Vitality now having gone to every single site on border. They have defended 4 times, and they've gone to all 4 sites.
What an interesting map from Vitality. But you have to admit that they did kind of drop the ball on that last hold. They had 3 people in a position to watch the plant, and nobody saw Hibana in the site. In fact, we did see the smoke, actually. Just you could tell on a screen that he could see the legs of Hibana as Hibana was planting, however, chose not to shoot the legs. I'm guessing was not expecting someone in the site so quickly. All of that aside, that just is telling of Vitality not putting enough emphasis on the site early into the round, not expecting such an aggressive push from ENCE. And you actually, I have to give props specifically to ENCE because of that. Just, well, aggression. There's nothing else to be said about it. It was straight aggression. They walked into the site, they got the plant, and that was the end of the round.
They took charge. It was a very similar play to the way that ENCE read Evil Geniuses in Sao Paulo at the Season 6 LAN. Was they noticed that most of the defenders were upstairs. There was a glaring hole on the side of Customs. The only one watching it was, I believe, Young. They just came in, killed Young, and they planted. And there was no chance for Evil Geniuses to retake that site. In a situation such as this, they were able to take advantage of the fact that Vitality was spread out. Wilkie went in amidst the Shroud of Smoke, got a plant off, and they were able to distract the actual Smoke who was playing, which I believe was Raphael, from being able to get the kill onto him, and it's just snowballed from there.
You know, something else, that round that we just saw was the very first round that I saw where ENCE was even remotely assertive. They just committed themselves to a cause, a strategy, and decided, this is what we're doing, win or lose. And that was the first time in this whole map that they've done it. And landslide success. So hopefully they'll be able to read that and continue to actually commit to their strategies, their calls, and they'll have better hope. Hopefully we can get overtime here.
And we are about 2 minutes away from realizing whether there will be overtime for ENCE and Vitality, or if Vitality will clear this one out. So it's taken about a minute so far, and Vitality very, very far back in sight for most of their operators, doing their patented drone work, trying to assess the situation and know where to push. Bibu, who has managed to get into detention right now, a lot of people call it jail, he sits just below And Uno using that cardiac sensor to determine where the defenders are. He had very briefly spotted Bibu, and oh! Bibu gets the kill before Kanto through the floor takes out Bibu, and that is a trade. So both teams at 4 apiece. You've lost the Pulse, okay, you've lost the Ash, so that pressure from below will need to come on behalf of Pure Destruction, caliber-based from the rest of the attackers.
Which is doable, albeit not exactly very comfortable. Kanto going to rotate to the top of E stairs, and Spark will see that on the drone. It has been called out to his team, but there's no one in a position to hold those E stairs as they are assaulting the A wall. They're going to have to open up that CCTV wall first, as it has been reinforced, quite interestingly, from ENCE. It will be opened up. In fact, no, it hasn't been reinforced. Interesting that the thermite charge was not shot there by the player on the mirror window, but all really not that important.
He could see through the mirror that the Glass was watching the site, and he didn't want to risk potentially peeking Zephyr to try to shoot it, just in case the Glass could make that shot. I mean, at the same time, how crucial is that wall at this exact moment? You potentially risk your life, and you don't want to take that gamble. One smoke will go off at 40 seconds, meaning that there's 2 remote gas grenades left from Wilkie to choke out Vitality from getting inside a site. I really like the way that ENCE has played this, as the aggression right now is mostly inside of CCTV and servers. It's going to cost them a lot of time, but using that smoke and the ability of Glass, they will just push up undeterred towards the actual doorway inside of lockers. And right now the diffuser is being held by Raphael, who will try to get a plant off. Brid eliminating Kanto, and Vitality now has the lead, and Brid getting torn to pieces from below. Miraculously, there is a Mira that is playing below. That's Panari getting the kill onto Brid, but the defuse will go off in the background. So Vitality has a diffuser down, and Panari a dipsy-do as Spark goes down before getting traded off by Raphael. Zephyr repelled watching that diffuse plant, and now Raphael eliminating Wilkie. It's all up to Boonsy. This is match point, of course, and no chance at all. Vitality will take ENCE's map away from them, and we will now move on to Coastline, with Vitality being up 1-0. And interestingly enough, that hole that they had opened up next to the Mira ended up being their undoing.
Yeah, not reinforcing the double wall there on A is often seen as a bit of a risk, that's for sure. And it certainly, as you said, cost ENCE quite a lot. If you take a look at your scoreboard, you can see that there was a donut dropped by ENCE, and that's never what you want to see throughout quite a lot of rounds there. I believe 8 rounds total, not getting a single kill. I mean, you can make the argument for being the IGL, and Wilkie's an exceptionally skilled player, but at some point you have to contribute in that raw fragging potential.
Right, and especially in a matchup that we suspect is going to be as close as it is. Both these teams are going to be engaged in a war of inches. It's just one of those things where you need everybody pulling their weight as best they can. So Vitality taking ENCE's map away from them, and we say map just because that's the one that ENCE had picked, but of course Vitality looked very good. And my big thing for ENCE is trying to avoid and stray from being far too critical, because I do feel like we have mentioned a lot of the missteps that we saw ENCE play. You mentioned that there was only one round where they really took charge and were assertive. Even the other rounds, the other 2 previous rounds where ENCE won, they seem to scrape through some of those rounds. Whereas now, Vitality has won a couple of those rounds in commanding position. There isn't going to be much downtime, though, as we head to Spain, and Coastline is going to be map number 2. Vitality looking to push ENCE into fighting for their spot in Pro League via relegations.
But you know why we're so critical of ENCE, especially in this match right now? It's because it's ENCE. This is ENCE we're talking about. One of the all-time greats of Rainbow, and a team that is, you know, well respected in the community. But more importantly, because when I say that was the only round we saw where they were even remotely assertive and they just tried to commit to their strategy, where they really seemed to believe in what they were trying to accomplish, that's the ENCE of old. That's the ENCE that wins matches. That's the ENCE that won Season 6. Where is that ENCE? You know, we want that ENCE, and they gave it to us for one round. Can we get it for some more? It seems, you know, we've talked about this actually in the past quite a bit, but ENCE's story has always been this sort of deal where they internally struggle quite a lot. Not between players or anything like that, but with themselves, with their own identity, with their own play. and it seems to be their greatest opponent is themselves, and that's often the case in many teams, for many teams, but for ENCE especially. And it's always frustrating to see them struggle with it. Now, Vitality, on the other hand, I mean, talking about their opponents, of course, they've been playing really well. They seem to have their game on lock right now. We talked about measure twice, cut once, and that's what they're known for. That's what they've been doing. They're executing their identity, what they know they are. And it just seems like they're playing against an opponent who right now doesn't.
Every single testimonial from teams that have played against Vitality on a number of occasions say that in theory it doesn't make sense that their strategy works because you should not be able to pull off a push in the final 30 seconds. But they will all say the same thing. You don't know what it's like until you actually play against it. It can be smothering. And with the way that Vitality plays, having all that information available, oh no, Brid takes out Kanto as the Jaeger lies down and the legs visible for just a second.
That angle is one of the reasons that a lot of teams don't like Coastline. The openness of the middle of the map, and that making the defenders have to hide in corners to avoid stuff like that is one of the reasons teams don't like Coastline. And we have to come back. This is Vitality's map. This is the one that Vitality wanted to go to, and ENCE might not be familiar with it. At least not enough.
Bibu pumping a whole bunch of those lifeline concussive missiles into B, and we'll use the very last one. He has depleted that 6, I guess, explosive stock, as now Bibu will drone. You see one drone goes down, and they're trying to burn the ADS inside of A. They have peeled off all of the defenders from B, so they have full control right now of Hall of Fame and VIP, and they did that by eliminating Kanto and forcing them to get pushed back. However, there is technically still one member of ENCE inside of B. That's the Yokai of Wilkie, or Yokai of Wilkai.
No, I like that. As Yokai of Wilkai, that works.
And it's sitting right above the main doorway. You saw it for just a second. It will be a major impediment to any push, as of course those 3 blasts from Yokai can knock you out of that planting animation. Raphael using the smoke and Candela combo is just going to push right in. They'll have some covering fire as the artillery of glass stands in bathroom. And look at that, Raphael, they will just bully them. Vitality sweeps into the site and will get the plant down. Both Panari and Uno will now need to retake, and Bibu on the Zofia cleaning up jointly with Brid, who's still watching from above, gets the opening kill and the ending kill, not allowing a retake. And Vitality now is only 4 rounds away from moving on.
So it started off bad with Kanto Raketti losing his life to Brid on that from the middle angle, and it just kept cascading in favor of Vitality for a number of reasons. First of all, it didn't seem like ENCE had any preliminary defenses on the front line over by Trophy Hall, over by the bathroom drop down. They didn't have anything to hold the push, not really. They had the Yokai drone, but that's not enough, and Wilkie wasn't even using it at the time of the push. And then once the smokes and candles come out, and this is something that I believe is pretty well known, you know, you put the smoke on the doorway to projector, and you cut off all visibility for the defenders because there's basically nowhere in penthouse you can anchor. So everyone anchors that site from projector and tries to hold using mirror windows from afar. One smoke and one candela disables that. You throw all the smokes and all the candelas at the same time and push into that as an attacking team, you have complete dominance over the defense. And exactly that was highlighted by Vitality perfectly. I believe it was Hungary who made that strategy oh so prominent.
And that's, once again, looping back into the fact that not only an innovative Ying player, but also good in terms of fragging potential too. Now, Vitality is really giving ENCE a mental workout on attacking strategies here, as the very first defense from the French will be in the kitchen. Now, this is probably the least played site of the 4 on Coastline. Coastline and Border seem to inhabit a very similar role in the sense that when you're playing on Coastline, usually Master is going to be your #1 site, but then of course you could go to Hookah or you go down to the double bars as a secondary option as well. Kitchen is viable, you just don't see its use all that often. I wonder if Vitality assumes that ENCE is not as confident in their attacks, and that's why Vitality continuously is hopping from site to site to site to see how flexible ENCE can be.
You know, it might be just that. I think Vitality are trying to read where ENCE is good at attacking and where they fall a little bit short. And that's really smart from Vitality, to be honest. You know,
If that's the case.
if that's the case. You know, it could just be that they want to play on certain sites and they want to mix things up. All that aside, though, here comes a push from ENCE. Bibu's going to get an initial entry, and Raphael will back that up. Panari goes down along with Wilkie. Kanto trying to plant, but it's not going to happen. Bibu gets him with the pistol. Spark gets Uno, and it's just Boonsy against the world. 1 versus 5. He's playing a good operator for it. He's got the weapon. He's got some utility in his drone, but he's got to find 5 Vitality players. Doesn't seem likely. As he pushes his way towards the front door, or the Lamborghini doorway, he is going to start to back off, and Raphael will lock things out. Boonsy goes down, not checking the bomb, unfortunately, and Vitality will take 2 rounds in a row.
How much at this point do you think it's a mental game for ENCE?
I think the whole match is a mental game. I think if you take a step back and you look at the entire season, any season for ENCE, it's a mental game. The whole thing, their entire gameplay is based around what goes through their mind. And I think I don't think it's as highlighted with any other team than it is with ENCE. And I talked about it earlier. It's really just an internal battle with themselves. It has a lot to do with their opponents, sure, and the proficiency of Vitality and how they're clearly doing well right now. But I think it's just ENCE struggling to get past their own inner demons, and we've seen it before in the past.
That mental game as well is something that afflicted ENCE for so long at LANs. You know, we called it the curse, and it was just the fact that ENCE did not seem to have whatever it took to get through that first round. The scoreboard has been brought up for one reason. The first 2 rounds have been completely flawless from Vitality. Not a single frag for ENCE yet. They are still trying to find that. And we also saw a last-minute change. Originally, they were going to go up to Penthouse and Projector upstairs, or Penthouse and Theater. They opted to switch to Kitchen at the very final moment. We'll see if it will, you know, afford them any more success.
I think
they went up top.
I think when you're in this position like where ENCE is right now, you got to start taking everything you can get. And Kanto's highlighting just that as he goes for a spawn peek onto Zephyr. Honestly, a very common. That's the glass. That's not the operator you want to be losing right now. But the really interesting thing for me is that's an extremely common spawn peek he just used. That was at the top of lobby stairs, a very predictable window to be looking out of. But Kanto, of course, with his exceptional skill, was able to make it work for him.
You mentioned that they're not known for their fragging potential, but Kanto has very steady aim, and he is indeed the one. Well, I would argue that Boonsy can take it over, too, from time to time.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about taking it over, Panari can do it as well. Uno can do it. Wilkie sometimes has had moments where he steps up and gets the double digits. You know, anyone on ENCE really can, but it's not what they're really prominently known for. They are the strategy team. In fact, they pioneered strategy at the beginning of Rainbow Six Siege eSports. They were one of the first teams to really bring the well-rounded strategies into this scene. So that's what they're known for.
All of Vitality now is coalescing around Sunrise Bar, and they're just moments away from being able to take Kitchen. You see Bibu using one of those concussive mines, which are far less valuable than the 2 explosive rounds from the Lifeline, to test if there's an ADS there. They have not done, obviously, a suitable amount of droning, because they would realize, if you look, there is no Jaegers. They don't need to worry about an ADS, and that is uncharacteristic of this team, to not have all of that information available to them.
Absolutely right. They also have seemingly elected to ignore the roamers upstairs, which is going to cost them quite a lot when they go for their final push. Now, not having the glass means no kills through the smokes, but the smokes can still provide cover for a plant, which is going to be Spark's job as he goes in under cover of EE1D and smoke. Panari will be detected. Candela is going to blind him. There is still a defender in the site. Uno gets a C4 kill. Kanto gets Brid, but Brid responds onto Kanto. And now again, still a defender in the site, and that's going to be Uno who gets Bibu. And as Spark gets pushed on, he is very wisely not getting the initial frag. Gets a triple kill! Wilkie now in a 1 versus 1. He might have the yokai still, but it's a post-plant situation, and half of the diffuser has been whittled down. Spark is in a perfect spot to clutch this right now. Now, he's very likely going to be hit by the yokai, which Wilkie seems to be using right now, and he has indeed been hit by that very drone. But he's choosing to move over to blue stairs, playing the long game, expecting the push from Wilkie, and here it comes. Wilkie checks the wrong angle, and he goes back in for the diffuser. There's no time! Spark clutches it out in a 1 versus 4!
Oh my. And that is, we just saw firsthand why you wait. When you're in that position to strike and you hesitate for that moment, you have two real options. You either pay for it immediately or you fully capitalize, and wow. Vitality snags a round that they really, at the start, didn't have any business in winning, and now it's 3-0. So ENCE at least responding and getting on that board, but what a play that is, and that is absolutely one for the highlight reels.
Bearing 9, by the way. Abana's got the full tools. What an amazing job there from Spark, and just, wow. Potentially even overall just...
No death for him at the moment either.
Yeah,
so
he's had a perfect match so far. 3 rounds to 0.
Pretty astonishing.
You really don't expect ENCE to be down like this, and despite that amazing play from Spark, overall it was just a little bit of a oversight from ENCE. I think we can safely say that. They didn't check all of the angles. They didn't take it safely. They jumped the gun.
So now we're only 2 rounds away from this being over and ENCE having to face off for their lives in Pro League. And one of the things that doesn't get mentioned very often, at least here on Pro League, is how competitive the EU Challenger League is. The teams that are competing in European Challenger League right now all could argue that they probably are worthy of spots in Pro League.
Oh yeah.
EU has, I would say, the most depth out of any of the regions in Pro League at this exact moment. And that does not bode well for Uplon, and it will not bode well for either Vitality or ENCE, depending on what we see over the next couple rounds. So you don't want to be put in a position where you could be getting eliminated from Pro League, especially if ENCE is not comfortable in this meta. This meta is not really going to be that much different.
So Wilkie is going to start moving his way over towards VIP, and this is looking like it's going to play out like a very typical attack onto Penthouse. Now, of course, the first step is taking VIP, which is where you see that big circle couch, and then, of course, you got the trophy hallway, or sometimes red hallway, or sometimes record hallway, many different names, but you take these 2 positions, and you have a good start to your attack, open up the wall into Penthouse, and then you can simply get the plant. Now, the thing you're going to have to worry about is, of course, Bibu from below, who is engaged right now with Pinari, has lit up the Lion to about 25 HP, possibly 30 HP, but either way, not very much. And oh, look at this. Spark, Bandit tricking from below, but less than your typical Bandit tricking. He's just playing Bandit and shooting the X-Caros using a well-conceived angle. And it doesn't look like anything from ENCE is going to be able to disable it. But no! What? Kanto! How did he lose that? Had perfect visibility on the Bandit, but died to Bibu. Pinari refrags, but likewise from Spark. And a 3 versus 4 Vitality in commanding lead here.
Unbelievable. And Pinari at least gets the trade-off, but Vitality is just going to hold on and endure at the moment. You see Wilkie trying to get at least closer to the site, playing just outside of, I believe you called it Circle Couch, and that is...
VIP, it's VIP.
VIP, or, I mean, Circle Couch is, of course, a little bit of a meme. Bootsy and Spark will trade, and now Uno coming strong inside of the theater. That's going to leave Zephyr and Spark left to retake the site. Zephyr playing in Record Hall right now in Hall of Fame. He sees one. Long range!
Oh.
Zephyr, a great shot onto Wilkie. And it's all up to Uno, who will blind one and storm out. But Spark, who has just a fraction of health, will need to play against the Mira. Will he win? But no, Uno a clutch, and ENCE finally makes it on the board. It was about time. And ENCE, there's still a bit of a pulse. It might be faint at this exact moment, but the Finns are alive. And round 5.
You know, of course, Uno, the newest member to this team, he's got a lot of that kind of new guy spunk that I'm not yet fatigued with this ordeal. I want to keep going. I want to win matches. And he seems to be forcing it through, that whole idea through for his team. And props to him for that clutch. Well done. So, as you say, a little bit of a pulse from ENCE. And a good execution onto Penthouse. Honestly, it looked like Vitality had all their eggs in a row, everything going in their favor. And it just didn't work out. They had the defense from below. They had the pulse with the C4 ready. They were countering all the Excaros on the VIP row, or VIP wall, and it fell apart.
Yes, indeed, all of the eggs.
In a row. Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but
Ducks lay eggs.
you know what? I'm committed to it now.
Ducks, eggs in a row.
Eggs in a row.
And Wilkie still has not been able to find a kill so far. So we have now...
They were once eggs.
We have now been through 12 rounds of action, and Wilkie has not been able to find his way on the board. That is a tough state for his team to be in. And, I mean, we do say that kill death is not the most important factor.
You can only defend someone for so long.
But I think at this point you need to say that, yes, your KD and the contributions that you make on the scoreboard are not necessarily the most important, because, I mean, if you deny a plant with an echo, then, I mean, it's not showing up on the scoreboard, but at least you're still contributing to the team. At this point, however, almost indefensible to not have found your way onto that score sheet.
Even as the IGL.
Even as the IGL. I like, though, that ENCE went back down to the kitchen, and here's why. Despite the fact that Spark had that miraculous 1v4, ENCE was situated to completely stop and halt that push. If it wasn't for Spark catching fire, ENCE was in really good shape and arguably could have won that round. I think they understand that and realize that it's very unlikely that such a maneuver from Vitality will happen again, and because of that, they're going to go downstairs and hope that their luck has changed. If it does not change, then Vitality goes to match point, and ENCE is put in a very bad position on that razor's edge of losing the entire matchup.
So, nice angle being established here from Cantor Aketi, and he is going to try and fight this Blackbeard. He's given away his position, though, by mealing quite a lot of walls, and as you can see, Raphael is droning for his teammates. So as soon as he gets into this fight, oh wow, miraculously wins it. Too many holes for Spark to check, and body shots are enough at that range from Cantor Aketi, and he will win that. So that means that everyone from ENCE can start aiming at the heads reliably. A C4 misses from ENCE, though, from below, and Bibu gonna fight back, try and light up. Speaking of miss, he put a bullet onto Panari. He put some damage in, but he's gonna have to find quite a lot more. So there's still 75 HP or thereabouts for the Mira player. Now Cantor Aketi has been forced back into the main lobby, so there's no position here for ENCE. They don't have that top floor anymore.
And Bibu coming very tantalizingly close to seeing Panari there in the kitchen below. Vitality needs to hurry things up. And I know that that sounds funny given Vitality's usual pace.
Their Vitality.
Which, you know, their glacial pace that they sometimes operate at, but they need to start establishing more control. Yes, they have coverage from above, but it's going to be much more difficult for them to be able to get into the site itself. You can see Bibu is droning out the Mira of Panari, and that's Raphael just waiting for the feet to emerge through the drone hole. But no, Bibu's drone is only going to do so much work as Panari eliminates the driver and operator of that actual drone itself. Zafir comes a second away from seeing Kanto, as Kanto playing down in security below, giving us just under 30 seconds. Raphael will soften up the wall just by the B bomb site. That Yokai also still very much in the equation. Zafir eliminating Panari, and now ENCE seems to be much more alive than they were just a couple rounds ago, as Kanto takes out Raphael, but will be traded off as Boonsey falls. And now Uno eliminating Brid, leaves just Zafir from above. He does not have control of the diffuser and does not have a lot of time. ENCE will hold on, and they will narrow that gap. It's now 3-2, still in favor of Vitality, but ENCE is mounting a comeback before our very eyes.
And they've started something here, but can they really finish it? That is the question. They've got a long road ahead, as we talked about before the match even started. And I mean, where do they really start driving down that road? Because it seems like they've been on the sidelines for so long now. They need to get something going.
Attackers need to locate and
So we will now go round number 6. They will go down to the double bars. So the only site that we have not seen is going to be hookah upstairs, hookah and billiards, which usually is the second most played site. So that in and of itself is quite unusual. But with double bars, typically your defensive setup around double bars will revolve around cutting off access from the kitchen side and making sure that the only real way for them to funnel in is through that main doorway. You can see it, it's in the northwest corner of the map right now, or the top left corner if you are directionally challenged. Usually a castle plays a significant role in doing that. However, Vitality will eschew the castle pick and go with the 5 operators that we saw most used in the previous season. Your 3/3 speeds, and then Smoke and Miro likely to anchor the site. And we're just waiting as they all spawn in and begin to push. Giving you a nice scenic tour of the actual coastline villa that we have on the Spanish coast.
So the double bar defense is, I would say, probably one of the more difficult ones to execute. Now, it's definitely up there in terms of pick rate, and a lot of teams really enjoy playing on it, but it's definitely, it requires a lot of coordination from the defense.
And they've managed to push in. So usually you want to funnel them in through this entrance, which is exactly where they are. And ENCE is going to essentially get choked off if they cannot establish greater control beyond this one doorway. The main foyer inside of the site itself, that is the choke point that the defense wants you to sit in. And right now, ENCE is just working very, very slowly. You can see Kanto just in a standoff waiting for somebody in A. But there's nobody who's going to peek him.
Now the Smoke is going to choose to try and choke off this bottleneck. As you can see, ENCE are getting a little bit tunnel vision. They don't really have a lot going for them other than slim control on the balcony. Now Uno is going to start pushing in from the kitchen, but the Smokes are really not that well placed, and Bibu will get that kill. Kanto gets Raphael, but Spark with the refrag. Boonsey a C4, and Wilkie will get Spark.
Wilkie's first kill. He'll get on the board in round number 6 of this matchup, but he's the last one left, and he's going to need a lot more than just one. He's lost about half of his health. He does hold the diffuser and has a minute to work with, so if he paces this right, he could be okay. But Zafir sees Wilkie, takes his head off, and Vitality with that will move to match point, and ENCE now 1 round away from their very first set of relegations and an end to the streak.
Yeah, of course, if you're wondering what we mean by streak, the going to land streak.
They have appeared at every single final, so we have
the only team.
We have had 6 seasonal finals and then 2 invitationals. ENCE has been present at all of them. Originally, they started as Sisu. We've switched to ENCE most recently, and of course, they are your defending seasonal champions. Yes, Penta did win the Invitational. They are your world champions, but when we head at some point to the LAN finals this season, it will be ENCE as the defending champions. They have 1 round away from not being able to defend that crown one bit, and in fact, will be defending something else, their spot in EU Pro League. It'll be a very frightening scenario in which this team has never seen themselves in it. Now, Uno and Kanto have been right now the driving force on Coastline for this team, keeping them alive at least on the scoreboard. And those are 2 of the most consistent players. And Uno, I think if you can take one highlight away from this season, if we are saying so long to ENCE's road in this season, I think Uno is a definite bright spot.
Yeah, Uno and Kanto Raketti are the 2 young talents for the team, if you will. They're, of course, the newest player, plus I think the youngest player between them, and they are, I think, really still enthusiastic about their chances of winning, and they're trying to push things forward. They're trying to make it happen, and it's not as if the rest of the ENCE players are dead weights or anything like that. That's definitely not the case. Because you've got Panari and Boonsey, I would say 2 of the best support players in Europe. And then you've got Wilkie, who, yes, he only has 1 kill in this entire match. And he only just got it on a round that they ended up losing anyway. But he is an exceptional IGL, and he is one of those guys who forges strategies, right? So he contributes to the team. They have a winning formula in the ENCE roster, but they just cannot ever seem, or in most recent times, they cannot make it work. So we'll see. I mean, of course, there's still chance for them to win this out and bring it to overtime, get us to map number 3, which if we do go to, will be Border. Now, if we get to, Chalet. If we do get to Chalet, that is one of ENCE's most prominent maps. It's one of the maps that they've really enjoyed playing for the longest time. Interestingly, 4 players in Projector.
Originally, Uno was playing the stairs to the main lobby, but has since come back into the site since Spark established control of that window. And of course, you can't really exist there as a defender if you know there's a Blackbeard playing off that window. However, what that will do is allow Rafael to get in to the main wall and start an exothermic charge. No bandit available for them. They'll lose one of the Miras, and the wall will now fall as well. A C4 goes out as well as a Toxic Babe, but there's nobody. Bibu will inhale just a tiny bit of gas, and they can now start that assault on Theater itself.
This strategy is a really nice one. You don't see it often employed. Coming from the south side, the main lobby stairs, and trying to take Projector, which is so commonly the main focus for the defense, is a nice execution. And we've seen the likes of SK use this. We've seen it used many times in Latin America. This repel from Spark, missing his shots though, and he will be lit up, put on the low HP. One bullet will dispatch him, but he still has a shield. Cantor Raketti gets Bibu playing inside of Projector. Impressive play to be able to continue to anchor in this open site.
You can see Spark on the window now. Uno tries to peek him. I don't know why. Panari might be nailed down, and he'll jump out the window, but Panari, the flying Mira, will claim the victim of Spark as Zafir waiting on flank watch takes out Wilkie. Rafael has that diffuser in his hands. He'll need to go in and establish site control, but Kanto with one cannot get the second. 20 seconds left. Brid will get brought back to life. It's just him and Rafael, and Panari is downstairs. He'll need to retake. There's smoke from Boonsi, as Rafael will need to begin his plan. He softens up the floor, and now Brid, using the EE1D, will pause Panari from advancing. Bootsy cannot get back to site. It's all up to Panari, but Vitality will send ENCE to relegations. The defending champions will have no chance to repeat. They'll fight for their lives against the best of European Challenger League. Vitality will win this 2-0.
Truly a heartbreaking defeat for ENCE and their fans. And Vitality, on the other hand, very well done to them. Great executions, great holds, overall playing their game to perfection, as you would expect from Vitality. No huge upsets from what they showed us today. And they managed to get away with the 2-0 victory. I sincerely believed that this would go to the third map.
I did not expect it to be this quick. I was